Hey everyone, Jane Melanie, Tell the American Ronin. How are you doing? Hope everybody's having a good day. Hope the weather's as pretty wherever you're at watching this as it is here today. You know, really beautiful day. Before I begin this one, I'm gonna preface this a little bit. I guess I wouldn't call it necessarily a caveat, but it's something just to help you understand where I'm coming from. I'm not allowed to vote right now. Doesn't matter why. If it was because of mental health conditions or things other. Fact is, it happened. I did it. Move on. I work on being healthier so that things like that don't happen anymore. But I'm going to be speaking a little bit about some politics and stuff today. So I feel the need to say that, I have no say in it at the moment. With a lot of things, especially with politics, because, can't vote for another few years. Then I can take steps to where I can fix that. The reason I say this is because I was always a real firm believer, it was a real strong conviction of mine that if you can't do something, if you're not going to help fix the problem, shut up. If you're not going to do your part, keep your mouth shut. Pretty basic rule, step up or shut up. And for all the complexities I try to create in myself, I'm really just a very simple creature. But that being said now, I actually have a little bit of respect for the more radical people. Do I like what they do? No, not necessarily. Do I think it's beneficial? No, not necessarily a lot of times. But they do have what's the courage of their convictions. And that's something that I see a lack of with a lot of the younger generation and some in my generation. Although I'm not sure exactly how I fit with Generation X, considering my parents were so much older when they had me. I have a lot of the older school core values. And that was one of them. But I've learned to have a little bit of a more open mind since I don't have a dog in the race. Dog in the race, as it were. But I do suffer the effects of all y'all's voting and everything like that. Though the conspiracy theorist in me, I'm not sure if it's so much a conspiracy theorist anymore, considering I do believe that the election was stolen a few years ago. But anyway, that's another conversation altogether. But back to what I was saying. The radicals, be it on the left or the right side, no matter how batshit crazy those ideas might be, and on both sides they have them. When it comes to political parties, I've never really had one. I've always considered myself independent. I don't care who paid you to get in there. The point is, if you can do the good job, I don't care what commercial you're putting on or what party you say you're with. And that's just where I really think a lot of Americans are. And those that cling to a party, maybe that's the extent of their courage or their convictions, is claiming something that they believe is right. But that's just my little aha moment for this video. Um, it's one thing I believe that a lot more folks need, especially some of the more conservative ones, myself included in some of this. If there was a party or a person that you think is right, as much damage as the riots and the ruckus caused, just looking at it long range strategically wise, and I essentially am watching a football game with this, or a chess match. I get to armchair quarterback. From watching what's going on in my area, the way the politics are trickling down to affect me and my community. Right now I'm in a state who has a really bad public educational system. Yeah, I can't remember how low it's rated, but it's kind of ridiculous. And much as I love Texas, cost of living there is just too high for me, at least right now. Maybe one day I can get to go home, but that will be long after they legalize at least medical marijuana. They're working on it, from what I've heard. Probably cost that'll probably reflect everything else, though. At this point, it's just another marketable product. But the courage of those convictions, being able to act on them, be it with a political party, and with the younger generation's lack of courage to their convictions, which, as much as you see with the riots, with riots going on and things, not considered good, But if the other side, whichever side you're on, the opposite one, does not meet their opposites, opposers. I don't want to say left or right because I don't really, but if the equal force doesn't match, and this is just basic science on any aspect, eventually one side will win. And it's going to be the ones who will be considered radical, one side or another, that have that, be it to whatever degree they're considered that radical. I hope some of that made some sense to you. And as much as this is going to end up being controversial, I'm sure, whichever side you believe in, then show it. Okay? Right or wrong. You have to decide what you think is best. That way you can look yourself in the mirror. Some of us can't look ourselves in the mirror for things less than that. And if you're not having problems looking yourself in the mirror, not doing your part, then maybe you need to reanalyze some things on yourself. Priorities. And break it all the way down to, do I have a core belief of anything? Do I decide this is right and this is wrong? Because I still believe that there should be public executions. I do believe that would definitely drive crime down. And yes, I've had charges that I didn't do, that I got convicted of. And there's chances where I could have been hanged with this, under my ideas. I'm okay with that. One standard. Not one standard for me, one standard for you, one standard for the guy with the Beamer, and one with the guy with the Ford. No, that's not how things should work, I believe. And that's what equality really is. It's not that everyone's built the same, because we're not. And anyone who says that is a fool. And that's just all there is to it. I mean, even medical science is a basic average. Okay? Because not every human reacts the same way to every different thing. Okay? Doctors are trained about the average. They in the field and in their careers, the individual. That's why studies that are done in such massive groups, because there has to be an average. We're too weird and individual, and that's one of the things that we all have in common. We all have different strengths. It ain't got nothing to do with what's between your legs or what's not between your legs, or what you feel like, because feelings lie. Okay? Feelings lie to you. It's said in the Bible, it's said in psychology books, it's read in philosophy. Feelings lie. Perception is a bitch.